Hello, this is Shannon Johnson, and you are watching my presentation on mental training for performance enhancement. And this is to fulfill the requirements for Kinesiology 720 Psychology of Sport. And today is December 14th, 2018. The purpose of this presentation is to share how mental training enhances performance. I will share case studies of Olympic and professional athletes that use mental training in their getting ready for competitions and for game day. I will share mental techniques that are used, specifically visualization and imagery, and I will explain the benefits of using these mental techniques for cognitive readiness prior to competition. Olympic and professional athletes are looking at ways to prepare for high-level competitions differently. Along with devoting their time to physical training, they are also adding mental training to their regimens to give them an edge over their competitors. This is making all the difference as to whether the athlete finishes on the podium or not. Athletes are using visualization to imagine successful outcomes, to reduce performance anxiety, and as a way to mentally prepare themselves prior to their performance. For example, Olympic aerialist Emily Cook talks about her experience at the Olympic Games in Sochi, and she describes the starting areas of the jump area. It's full of Olympians going through the motions of their aerial jumps. She describes the scene as really ridiculous and insane because the athletes are standing there flapping their arms and going through the motions, but she says that it may look silly, but it really does work for the athletes, and especially her experience. Swimmer Missy Franklin, who, if you remember, won 4 gold medals at the Olympic Games in London, talks about using visualization as a way of reducing her anxiety during a competition. She explains when she gets to the competition, she is more relaxed, and it's because she has pictured what's going to happen a million times. So when she actually begins her race, she doesn't have to think about it. She just kind of goes through the motions. Also, 4-time Olympian diver Troy Dumas uses visualization as a way to practice his dives before the performance. He states that he imagines himself hitting a dive over and over, and that increases his chances of hitting the dive during the competition. So these are just a few of the Olympic and professional athletes that use mental training to prepare, and they are supporters and believe in using mental training to improve their performance and reduce their anxiety. In the recent years, athletes are adding a sports psychologist to their support team, along with their coaches and their parents. And so it is more common for athletes to work with a sports psychologist. The role of the sports psychologist is to teach athletes the mental skills that will help improve their performance and help them reach their overall optimal performance. For example, athletes may need help coping with performance fears. They may have a fear of failure. They may have a fear of performing in front of other people. They may have performance anxiety. And so the sports psychologist will give them strategies to help them refocus and maintain their composure, even when their emotions and anxiety might be running high, or the distractions around them will impact their performance. The athlete also may need assistance in developing a pre-game routine, which will build their confidence prior to the performance. And so sports psychology shows to enhance performance by increasing the athlete's confidence, focus, and composure. And with these skills, it enhances their trust and their ability and belief in themselves, and so they're more likely to reach their optimum performance. The great thing about these skills is that it doesn't just apply to sports and athletic competition, but they can be applied to other areas of life as well. So once the athlete has retired and is moving on to maybe a professional setting, these skills will also benefit them in their personal life. Sports psychologists teach athletes many different mental techniques to help prepare them for high-level competition. One of the preferred techniques is visualization, or what is also known as imagery. And in a comparison study of different mental strategies used during athletic performance, participants who practiced 10 hours or more of athletic activity per week preferred visualization and imagery over any of the other mental strategies. So athletes are choosing this technique to prepare them to reach their optimal performance, and it has proven to be effective, just like in the case studies with the Olympic athletes I shared at the beginning of this presentation. Visualization is a cognitive tool accessing imagination to realize all aspects of an object, of an action, or of an outcome. Visualization uses the mind's senses of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch to create a mental image of the experience and with a positive outcome. According to research, visualization and imagery works because the brain uses the neurons, which are the cells in the brain that transmit information and interpret the images as a real-life action or situation. These neurons send an impulse to perform the movement, which is consistent with how we imagined it. So for example, when an athlete visualizes shooting a free throw in a basketball game, it activates that same part of the brain that is used when the athlete is actually performing the free throw. So it makes a connection with the mental image and with the actual action of the skill. Visualizing is a powerful tool that athletes can use to create a mental image in their mind, and effective visualization helps athletes move in the direction of their goals. So this whole process begins with setting a clear and realistic goal. And for an athlete, that goal may be as big as becoming an Olympic champion, or as small as overcoming performance anxiety. So the goal needs to be focused, and it will give the athlete direction towards the desired outcome. Once their goal is identified, they'll translate it into words and pictures in their mind. And at this stage, it might be helpful for the athlete to journal or write the words and pictures down on a piece of paper. This will help them formulate that mental image, and then they can also start associating the feelings and the emotions with the experience. And next, the athlete will have to commit to mentally practicing this script and consistently running through the pictures and the images in their mind so that they can have the benefits of this cognitive training. There are many benefits of mental training. When an athlete learns the cognitive tools, it maximizes their readiness so that they do reach their optimal performance. Working with a sports psychologist and coaches and parents, they can also help the athlete mentally prepare by teaching them these effective strategies, but then down the road they'll be able to manage their own mental preparation and be ready for their own performance and take ownership in that preparation. Using visualization and imagery techniques also benefits the athlete by getting them cognitively ready for competition, which then in turn builds confidence and calms their anxiety. So incorporating this mental training, it does prove to enhance the overall performance. Confidence is the single most important mental factor in sports. Without confidence, athletes will not perform well because they do not believe in their ability. The American Heritage Dictionary defines confidence as a firm belief in one's own powers, abilities, and capacities. So what this means is that believing in yourself and believing in your ability. Athletes that incorporate this belief and this confidence to their sport then are more likely to have a better performance. Sometimes athletes lose their confidence because they may start having anxiety or fear of failing or making mistakes, which causes them to become tentative or cautious in their competitions and during their performance. So this lack of confidence does impact their performance. Athletes can regain their confidence by reflecting on their performance, by practicing their skills consistently every day, but also using visualization and visualizing success and a positive outcome in their performance. In a research study on the relationship between mental skills and sports anxiety in sprint and endurance runners, concluded that using mental skills like visualization and imagery and experiencing them during a competition are the best strategies to build self-confidence, which then results in a positive performance. So confidence is a skill that can be learned and developed with consistent focus and practice using visualizing and imagery techniques. Varying levels of arousal, anxiety, and stress can breed a negative emotional state in an athlete that could impact their performance. Athletes have different responses to the same situation, and it depends on how the athlete perceives the events and how they handle those perceived events. For example, one athlete may see the events as good and have an excellent performance, and then another athlete may see the events as bad and have a poor performance. So the event is perceived, how the event is perceived causes an arousal or anxiety level that can either increase or decrease and have a positive or negative impact on their performance. Some athletes thrive in high pressure situations. Other athletes choke. And what that means is that athletes wilt under pressure. They fail to perform at the moment of greatest importance. And choking is quite common in many elite athletes when it is really time for them to shine and put out their best performance. Sometimes those anxiety and stress levels get in the way of their optimal performance. Some reasons why athletes tend to experience anxiety is because the pressure of being observed by the spectators, fear of failure, or wanting to be perfect. So athletes that struggle with sport anxiety will have cognitive and physical effects, and those cognitive will make the athlete feel anxious and stressed out, and those will show up in physiological symptoms like butterflies in their stomach, an increased heart rate, or sweaty palms or muscle tension. So for an athlete that experiences high levels of competitive anxiety, it may be beneficial for the athlete to work with a sports psychologist to learn some calming techniques. Along with anxiety and stress management, they will also be taught visualization and imagery as a strategy to help the athlete cope with these feelings of anxiety. If they can imagine their competitive performance and identify those emotions and feelings of anxiety that come with that situation, it will help the athlete imagine being calm and breathing and using their cues to redirect their focus. The visualization process and coping strategy is where the athlete will close their eyes and focus on their breathing. And once they're in this relaxed state, they can visualize their skills, their routine, and help, again, recognize that all the anxiety and emotions that are present during the performance, and then identify and develop some cues that will help redirect that when they're actually competing, they can regain their composure and focus. Mental training does enhance performance. Athletes need to realize that success does not happen overnight. It requires consistent practice, not only physical practice, but it also requires consistent mental preparation over an extended period of time. There's a popular cliche that states sports are 90% physical and only 10% mental. Sports psychologist Doug Gardner comments on this cliche, and he states that in reality, sports is 100% mental. And Gardner continues to explain that the consistency between our thoughts and actions through visualization and imagery techniques does improve confidence, which then maximizes the athlete's performance. So to enhance athletic performance, athletes need to not only use visualization and imagery, but they need to believe in themselves and have a support group, whether that's family, coaches, teammates, and commit to not just physically training, but mentally training as well, and imagining that success within their sport. More and more athletes are incorporating mental preparation to their training regimens. This mental training is separating out the athletes that reach a high level of performance versus athletes that maintain just an average performance level. These mental techniques of visualization and imagery is building the athlete's self-confidence, and it's giving them strategies to calm any performance anxiety that they may experience before, during, and after the competition. The mental components of sport cannot be ignored. More attention needs to be dedicated to cognitive training rather than just the fundamental skills of the sport, so that these athletes are cognitively ready and are able to reach their goals and have their optimal performance and reach a high level of success. Thank you for watching my presentation. Have a great day.